Good morning, everybody. And sorry, we're running fashionably late, but at least this time it's not my fault. Um, so, we are having a bit of a, we're going to invite you guys to join us. Feel as if you're just listening in on a conversation with a group of girls over brunch,
Yeah.
bottomless mimosas. Yeah?
Or margaritas.
And, and we're just going to have a bit of a discussion today. Um, and there might be some of you who saw the topic and thought like, oh, flip, not that again. But there is an old adage that you can't be what you cannot see. And we have a little bit of a problem worldwide, but I'm going to focus on South Africa. Only 25% of senior roles in this country is held by females. Yet we make up over 51% of the population. Now, you might think that maybe the reason for that is because we've got a problem with education, but we actually managed to, we closed in on the gap. Actually, we reversed the gap, the gender gap that we used to have in education. At the moment, we have 13.1% of women 20 years and older that have completed tertiary education, and the stats for men sits at 12%. So although when it comes to education, we are dominating, when it comes to the boardrooms and senior roles, the picture looks a bit different. Now, today I've got a group of amazing females that's joining me in this discussion. And one of these amazing girls gave me the idea to just use our friend ChatGPT, and instead of reading their bio, because we only have 40 minutes, and if I went through their bios, it would have taken up about 35 minutes. I just asked ChatGPT to give us like a little quirky fact about these people, or to summarize their bios into one line. So first up, we've got Fuziswa Moyo, who is the Director of Human Resources for South Africa, UK, US, and India at Quantanite, so basically the entire world. And this human resources professional turns people strategies into a vibrant adventure, fostering fun, growth, and real impact while making work feel inspiring and downright exciting. And then we've got Ms. Jessica Sitoli, Senior Group Manager par excellence at WNS. With a rich blend of leadership, learning, and development expertise, this professional empowers teams, smashes goals, and grows markets in her sleep.
Too kind.
Miss Nicola Jordan, the heart-led CEO of Genie Analytics, turbocharges the GPS world by turning it into an innovative playground where people thrive on passion and connections, proving that doing good for people is also good for business. And then Fatima, Chief Business Development Officer at Rewards Co Group. This is a legal eagle turned business dynamo, where she combines her savvy for strategy and legal know-how to spark growth and innovate with purpose and a dash of fabulosity. Now, these ladies, when we had our prep session and we just spoke about our journeys to where we're finding ourselves, we sort of discovered that we had a theme, and the theme was battle scars and stripes and street fighter stories. And that actually made us ask the question, is it still relevant today to talk about women in leadership? Yes, men, you can go like, like, is it still relevant? Why are we still talking about this, ladies? And I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to share their thoughts around that. Ms. Nicola?
Sure. I think yes, it's definitely something we still need to talk about, not because we need the validation, but purely because visibility shapes aspiration. I believe if we're still connecting gender to leadership, then that's why the discussion is relevant, not from a defensive perspective, but more from a responsibility and influence perspective. It's not that we are talking about women, but more normalizing seeing women lead. A bit differently, but not identically. Yep. Thank you.
100%. I think Nix has just captured it very correctly there. There's still a big platform to fill. And I think there's still a very, very big need for the woman aspect of it. I know everybody knows we lead naturally with that emotional support. So the subject is still very, very valid, very relevant. Again, given the fact that we've got so much opportunity for it, so why not use it?
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, and I think you talked to it in your statistics, right? It absolutely tells us that the conversations are still very necessary. But I also think we need to not forget our privilege. Because we have the opportunity to sit in this chair, it doesn't mean the conversation has gone away. There are many girls that will become women that will need these opportunities and hear these voices to understand that it's possible. And I think that's why it's still necessary. It will always be necessary.
So it was funny, right? So yesterday, a very senior colleague of mine, who actually works very closely with me, at lunch yesterday said, "So what you talking about tomorrow, Fatima?" And I said, "Well, it's GBS Leadership Women." And she said, "Is it always that? Is it women in leadership?" And then, funnily enough, another senior colleague, who's a guy, said, "But she is women, and she is a leader." And it made me reflect last night, actually, what was I going to say when this topic came out? Do we still need to talk about women in leadership? And my earliest recollection was actually learning history in grade 4 at the age of 10 years of age. And when the topic came up about Marie Curie, who created X-rays, do you know she was the first woman to have won 2 Nobel Peace Prizes in 1903 for physics, chemistry in 1911. And actually, she was a scientist, right? She connected science, intellectual giftedness, to bring across certain social cohesion for traveling army officers on creating dynamic X-ray machines, right? That was actually her discovery. Then, in history also, I then looked upon, for example, Indira Gandhi in India, okay, a very patriarchal society by Western standards. She was the only first and only female prime minister from 1966 to 1977, 1980 to 1984. The other one, I come from a Muslim background, that really inspired me was Benazir Bhutto, leading a patriarchal Muslim country and becoming prime minister. Then when you look at Margaret Thatcher, you look at Angela Merkel recently, they've set a lot of inspiration in terms of reformation within world politics. You look at the United Nations, you look at World Health Organization, you look at the United Nations World Technology Organization, UNESCO. They're led by women scientists. They have been, okay? You look at sport, guys. You look at Billie Jean King, Martina Navratilova. You look at the Williams sisters. Today, there's equity in terms of pay in tennis. You look at Toto Wolff. I follow Formula One at the moment. You look at Toto Wolff going and promoting his wife, Susie Wolff's book. She is popular and not empathy, guys. I heard a talk yesterday, actually, in one of the panels, and they said, women, inclusion, diversity, they bring empathy to the table. Yeah, we bring empathy, but we also bring intellect. Yeah. Intellect combined with empathy, together with governance, we have been world leaders for a long time, guys. 100%. What I am saying is, as a young girl of 10, I wanted to belong. And to bring all of it together, even from religion, people celebrate their mothers, even in Islam. Paradise lies under your mother's feet. Navaratri amongst the Hinduism. They celebrate 9 to 10 days of women, symbolism about women. Mother Mary, the mother of Jesus, Virgin Mary. But what all brought it together for me as a woman when I thought about it was actually one quote. I was in school, and it stated, to break the lamp of any people is to deprive it of its rightful place in the world's festival. And what that said to me, taking science, taking sport, taking all of this innovation and leadership is for us as women to belong. And we'll keep on talking and being in these platforms because actually I am very grateful and gratitude to some of these women that I have mentioned, but there's lots more. It's even our mothers to have allowed us to go and get an education, to sit here today and actually be on this platform makes me almost want to celebrate this. Inclusion and diversity is about having your rightful place in the world. And that's what is our impact, actually.
Sure. Viva, Fatima, viva. Wow. Okay, we can actually end the session. So, I mean, that is so powerful what you said, all of you ladies. And the theme that I'm getting is normalizing women who lead.
Yeah,
The fact that we still have to talk about it, that we have to name people to sort of validate that we own the space as well and that we belong is actually part of the problem.
Yep.
The fact that we still need to have this conversation is part of the problem, but unfortunately, we need to continue to have this conversation until it's been normalized, and to have women in these leadership roles is not something that we have to celebrate. It's just par for the course. It's normal. So part of the discussion that we want to have today is to look in particular to our beautiful GBS sector, which I've completely and utterly fallen in love with. I found my purpose, and my purpose is to create meaningful jobs in the sector. And I have the gift of owning my own BPO and being able to run it the way that I run it, with amazing people that is surrounded with me, following the same type of ethos in terms of how we operate and how we look after our people and how we care for our people. My question is, what does leading with impact mean to you personally? And do you have a specific instance that you can think of where you know that you have made an impact, and it is where you knew that this is what you need to do, why you are here, and why the sector is the sector where you know you can make the biggest difference? Fuzi?
Yeah, I'll start. I want to define it for myself, but for the room as well. Say, leading with impact, very often what is emphasized and what is celebrated and romanticized is the concept of competence, right? Which is execution and delivery. And we all embrace that very easily. And that's one component. Definitely can never fall behind and we can never do without it. But I wanted to say leading with impact has to do with good character. And that cannot fall behind. And that's what we're seeing today with global leaders that are responsible for generations, large populations lacking in good character. And how I define good character is trustworthiness, it's empathy, it's caring for the greater good, it's displaying integrity, and just simply doing the right thing. That for me is pretty crucial. I think we've all solved that competence is great. We all hire for competence. Wonderful, guys. You can give yourself a hand. But I think it's time to make fashionable good character. And that's when you think of the Nelson Mandelas of the world, good character is what matters because it cares about the greater good. It cares about generations to come. And one thing we see is that there's no longevity or wonderful legacy when all we care about is that element of delivery, execution, that robust excellence culture that does not have anything to do with having good character. So I wanted to define leading with impact as a combination of competence and good character, and that's what every leader should attempt to embody.
I love that. Thank you. Ms. Jessica?
So for me, it's actually a very personal story when it comes to leading with impact. I always say it takes me back to, when I look at the individual next to me, that was once me. That was once me with no money to study, no plan. What do I do? Long queues looking for a job, so many declines, so many rejections, so many you're not good enough, not speaking fluent enough, not counting fast enough. Whatever it wasn't good enough, right? And now I say, here, I've got this platform, because we all here, however we got here. Our stories are amazing, and that is great. We use whatever resources, whatever networks, whatever struggles. But what matters the most is, now that we are here, what are you doing about it? You've been given this platform. I always say, people say, I could be a better president. Okay, now here's a platform. But then what do? You forget, right? You're given now a platform, you are influencing decisions, you are making massive decisions, but you're forgetting that this person was once you, looking for the same opportunity, having the same struggles. And for me, it really has made me lead with the impact, because I've got that realization, I've got that understanding that that person is looking for the same opportunity I was once looking for. And what I do with this platform that I have now impacts that human being. And I wanted to be given a chance. So what do I do now? So every decision I make, I've got to remember that that was once me.
That's why we get taught that we mustn't forget where we come from.
100%.
And sometimes, as we go through the ranks, we do. Nicola?
Sure. It's hard to follow with these lovely ladies here in terms of what they're sharing. But I think when it comes to impact, it's not necessarily about volume or consistency. It's not about volume, it's about consistency. And for me personally, it's showing up with intent, not necessarily noise. And potentially putting in, the work before expecting others to do it. I think that's often where we fall short. But often impact isn't about being seen or the speeches. It's about allowing others to see further because of you. And I think we don't often recognize the impact of that. It's all about me in the moment and what I'm doing, and it's all about what I can offer in my personal capacity, but people are watching. And they're looking at your every move, either by virtue of thinking you got lucky, or by not understanding that you actually worked very hard going through the trenches in terms of achieving a particular outcome. If I think of what is impactful for me right now, we're in the forefront with this AI evolution. And the same sector that is supporting so much growth and so much job creation is the same sector that's trading that for short-term optics in terms of cost reduction and overhead. So if you think about impact, it's about what you can do to augment these technologies or these things within your business, and by helping people to actually adapt with the changes that we're going through right now. But yes, I think for me right now, that impact is to make sure that we are taking people on the journey with us. Yes. Not just the me and myself in terms of how I'm advancing myself, but effectively saying, let me help you amplify what you do and open the same opportunities for you that others spotted in me.
That's it. Exactly. Fatima, leading with impact, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, so I think like if you look at leading with impact, right? So it's almost like we, on this platform, whether it's not on the platform, just being female in terms of any industry, it's almost having a responsibility on our shoulders, right? Like our forebears, in the sense of having set an example and created a trustworthy a trustworthy environment for us to thrive in and take it further and grow upon it. It's almost like a legacy that you keep on setting as you go on in life. For example, in terms of the GBS sector, now going internationally, in the US and the UK more prominently, it's almost like when you are in the US and the UK and you now bring work to South Africa, those South African BPOs are really showcasing South Africa's strength. That's the same thing as a female. You showcasing your strengths of almost being included, being accepted, that you can actually do a good job. And I loved your one on strength and character, because what that does is it almost desexes the entire feminine and masculine debate. It's almost character is actually the one that flatlines everything. So when you're leading with impact, I would state is a strength, character, building upon the legacy that was left behind. And if I look at the example at Rewards at the moment, If I probably didn't do a good job at the board level, we wouldn't have had now 30% of women on our board. It's created an inclusion. It's created an inclusion at our workplace as well for having over 65% of women, and over 40% of them are in leadership positions. And that wouldn't have been had it not been for my forebears, myself, and the next generation. So that's what I would say is leading with impact.
Awesome. Jess, you shared a story with us about, we were chatting about gender biases, and we were initially just talking about gender biases in our workplace. But then Jess shared with us what she experienced growing up. So this actually starts, in general. It can start culturally, it can start with in our homes, and we have to navigate these things throughout our lives. And I would love for you to share with these gorgeous people what you shared with us, what you went through, and how amazing it is that you are sitting here in this
After all that.
position that you are, considering where you came from.
No, most definitely. So what sad thing is, it still exists today, 2025.
100%.
So we were talking about, some gender-based barriers, and the story I shared with the ladies is I actually experienced it way before I could think I could have a job or actually be here today with everyone else. So when I grew up, my grandmother, who was the mother to my father, believed that you do not educate a female. So my father was brought up like that, and when we were growing up with my sister, was hell-bent on, he will not pay for our education. He will not educate a woman. Interestingly, at that point, my mother's a teacher. So can you imagine what she's put through? She is an educator herself who's not allowed to educate her daughters. Right? And that was a norm. It wasn't even just excluded to my family. So here she was struggling. She's got to raise 3 kids. She's got a working man, by the way. It's not that he's not working, but he's not going to educate us. So she's got to struggle by herself if she needs to educate these 2 ladies that she's now given birth to. And I can assure you her story is another story in her own that she owns in terms of what it took for her to raise us. And that's where the challenges started, because then financially she couldn't. So at a very young age, I also needed to start making decisions, is what do I do, because I want this education. And I looked around my society where I was growing up, the desperate decisions the females started to make, right? Because it was the norm. Nobody encouraged you to study. Nobody expected you to study. Like, I tell you, if you went to school, it was because you wanted to. Like, we saw kids go to school and kids not go to school, but nobody made a noise. It's like school was a hobby. You went to school because you wanted to, not because you had to, not because it's a must, right? So they start making bad decisions. You start getting desperate. You start going to men and alcohol and all sorts of things. You start getting arrested at a very young age. So looking around me, I was like, not me. That is not going to be. So it was a big fight. It was a big fight because then you are not supported because, again, it's not the norm. Like, what are you doing? What are you fighting for? Nobody's studying around you, so nobody's pressurizing you anyway. There was pockets of women in society that really just inspired me. You'd see the women selling on the streets who were also saying, not my kids, not me. I'm not going to accept this. And for me, it also brings me to a culture that this sector also really creates is do not be a victim of your circumstance. I think that's why I fell in love with BPO. We preach that, we cultivate that. You will not be a victim of your circumstance. There's so much opportunity for you. Yes, you don't have your plan A. You couldn't matriculate the way you wanted to. You couldn't go to WITS. Eventually I did. After BPO giving me a job, I could take myself to WITS Business School. But it didn't happen the way I would have wanted it to happen. And that's why when I talk about leading with impact, it becomes so personal because there's so many young women then who say, how did you do it? I'm sitting here in the same community years later, still facing exactly what you faced. So how did you do it? How did you fight? How did you become resilient? And I think that then speaks to how responsible then we've got to be. It becomes an additional, I always say, not even responsibility, it almost becomes a debt.
Yeah.
You owe it to that person to share the how, to equip with the how, to support with the how, to relate to their stories. You might not necessarily be a me who couldn't even afford a sanitary towel every single month. It's fine, but make the effort to understand their reality. Make it your responsibility to understand their struggle. Because as I tell you, it still exists today. If you go into so many communities, if I look at a lot of my staff as well, you think this years ago where they don't believe that women should or women can, at a very young age. It still exists, and it becomes our responsibility. Because I know Cheryl was asking me, like, how did you unlearn that? It took a lot of fight to unlearn that. It took looking at different women and inspiration to say, you know what, that one is selling popcorn, but my gosh, that popcorn has now built a 4-room house.
Yeah.
Right? So I've got no excuse at the end of the day. I've got no money for a pity party anyway. So I've got to keep it. I've got to keep it moving.
Look, and I think that if there was any question in this room by any person or particular gender in terms of whether we should still be having this conversation, then that helps to answer that question, because this is still a reality that is
100%.
happening in our homes, in our communities, and that is why we are having these conversations. I need to just go to Fuzi and ask you to tie in with that and chat with us about the opportunity cost of being a woman in a career that is very performance-driven, very demanding. We follow the sun. We hardly sleep. What does that translate to for a career woman, a woman in leadership? What does that story look like?
Yeah. I want to first start by acknowledging that there is a cost to every single person in a leadership role. It's not special or dynamic to women. But for the sake of this dialogue, I want to bring closer the struggles or the cost that women often face.
That was very politically correct of you. Thank you.
Human resources over here. But it's real, because I think women in leadership is not at the cost of men in leadership. It stands alone. And I think in the spirit of inclusivity, these conversations matter to all of us in the first place. But just delving into these challenges, we have mothers in the workplace, and there is a cost to being a mother and occupying a leadership seat. There's an absolute cost in that. There's a sacrifice in time, family time, in wife time, knowing your children's teachers intimately, knowing their friends intimately. That comes at a definite cost. And what I've seen frowned upon is when you seek help, it also becomes a problem, because why is this madam operating with a driver, a nanny, a cook? And it's just bizarre to me that you can't win in that light, and that is a cost. I have to talk about my eldest sister, who's a very accomplished woman, and she runs a payroll in her personal life. She's got everybody for everything, and it's such a symbiotic relationship, because, she has to have at least a list of 50 people that can do everything for her. She believes that what she does is absolutely what is necessary. What she doesn't have to do, she will outsource. True to the BPO sector, right? She'll keep us in business. But I believe in that so much, because we should want to occupy these seats in leadership. And these are some of the barriers that are not, the gender barriers that are not spoken about. But you also have women who are not mothers. Sometimes they don't want to, but sometimes they're not yet mothers. And could you just imagine a good reason that you could give to anyone as to why you can't attend that 7 p.m. meeting? when you don't have little souls to put to bed. Everyone looks at you a little bit like you're crazy. And I say this because I'm not a mother myself, but the sacrifices that come with not being a mother in this sector that is operating 24 hours means that there's an absolute cost. And the recognition of that, it really, really goes silently. And I just wanted to bring those matters to the fore because everybody is paying a price in occupying these leadership seats.
Yeah. Well said. So, Fatima, I mean, you are pretty awesome. I hope you know that. And I've been...
You are too, Cheryl.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much.
So is everyone.
I've been really lucky. I mentioned the adage earlier, you can't be what you cannot see. But I've been so lucky in this sector that I'm relatively new to, that I've seen these amazing women leaders. You think of Reshni, you think of Kasturi, you think of BPO business owners like Renee Keeble, Candace Roberts, like people that I could say, oh my word, look, oh, this is actually possible, right? So how do you, there's a lot of people I haven't mentioned, right? Just no, there's a lot of people I didn't mention now because we don't have all day. But how do you think representation of women in leadership roles in this GBS sector has changed over the years? What have you witnessed? Have you seen that?
So I have, right? So one of the things is, it is amazing, though, that Reshni is a woman and she's leading this GBS sector, right? I mean, if you look at her history, she actually was in the Department of Trade and Industry for many years. And it's almost like she's brought in a governance policy framework and brought it into BPESA. And if you think about it, and I'm going to come to Nicola just now as well, in terms of what I thought about, right? You know, I mentioned earlier about people in history, but if you think about it, she navigated BPESA or the GBS sector, even with policy regulations and so forth, with the government gazettes during COVID, which was one of the most challenging periods within the GBS sector of still keeping it alive. And also, in terms of impact, when you talk about South Africa's employment with the 2013 National Development Plan, she's definitely leading an industry, isn't it? In terms of sector trade organization that's actually blending with government to almost bring it together and deliver an outcome. So from that perspective, like when I look at the GBS sector, if you looked at the past, you would have seen a lot of males on the panels, by the way. A lot of males at the GBS sector, even in terms of leadership in the history of South Africa, because I believe it was in the early 2000s, late 1990s, sorry, early 2000s, that we actually have had local BPO work. And in terms of it, you would have seen a lot of males. But at the same time, this sector allows somebody that doesn't have matric to enter it and get NQF level qualifications. So from that perspective, if I had to ask you guys, in terms of your payroll, majority would be women. Just for the fact that in terms of what you've stated, Cheryl, right at the start, on demographics in South Africa, on what the majority is, I would say that's an impact, and GBS sector as a whole, even with leadership, female leadership or not, has definitely created far more female employment in South Africa than any other sector.
I like 100% agree with you. And it's I almost swore, it's so amazing that we get to be in this position to influence it in the way that we are, because this is how we change this country, because this sector is a game changer. And employing women, uplifting them, that is the foundation of this country.
Fully agree with you, and it was funny, I was speaking about 2 weeks ago at the KZN Investment Conference, and one of the things I stated was exactly similar demographics but more related to KZN, and in terms of it, we are the only sector where affirmative action and employment equity shouldn't actually be applied. It's a natural progression into what your demographics represent within South Africa. So why not, in terms of international and national government, should actually invest in this sector for the electorate and in terms of making impact within society. You know, the other thing is also, sorry, I was coming back to Nicola because of digitization. You're at the forefront of inspiring trust across digital and human interfaces. And as a woman, it makes me incredibly proud that you've translated actually compliance into culture. And this is actually what turns our diversity actually into strategic advantage. When you look at AI, look at leadership, you look at employment, I think we are making our impact.
100%. I need us to start wrapping up. Can you believe it? And I feel like one of the things that we haven't really touched on is the heart, right? We spoke about making sure, we were advised by a young lady, Janke, to not say things like, let's not become like men when we're in leadership roles, so I won't say that. But as we progress in our careers and we get into these leadership roles, we have the opportunity to make sure that we have the nurturing side, the compassion, the caring side, that comes through in how we lead and how we manage our teams. Are we doing enough of that, ladies? Is it being seen and felt in our businesses? Do we have people knowing that the caring side is there within our businesses? Is there more of this that we can do? Do we feel like we are doing enough to change the narrative about the sector of ours that sometimes does not have the best reputation? We're going to have to keep this really short. Nicola, what's your take on that?
Sure. Maybe one sentence for the ladies in the room, because I often think we look at the gender play on this equation, but I think we need to stop worrying about the speeches and make a bit more space. And effectively, it's not about being the only woman in the room, it's how we make sure we're not the last one in the room. So how do we pay that forward? Conscious of time,
awesome.
though.
Yes, thank you.
Conscious of time, I'd love to dive deep into that. So let me think of 3 top things. For me, it's first of all being available. I think we do make an excuse of being busy a lot of the time, and a lot of people need us to be available. So in order to show that level of care and support and lead in that way, we've got to we'll make a conscious decision and an effort to be available for that person so they can get that one. 2, the other one would be relatable. Can our people actually even relate to us? You know, have we gone so far aloof that they can't even relate? Not that it doesn't exist, not that the heart is not there, but are we still relatable? And that's a question we should ask ourselves, so that can come alive and live again, and we can see more of that in our industry. The third one, very high pressurized industry that we in, and sometimes without knowing, we make people start to mold themselves into this that is required in the industry. And we've got to be cognitive of that. They don't have to change under the pressure. We've got to keep the same person and help support that person manage the pressure.
Thank you.
Well, as a product of sponsorship and mentorship, and I say this with one lady in the room, Andrika Kutsia, one of my sponsors and mentorship, I would say let's invest in others. Let's just do that. And it's not one job, you know, you have to reinforce it over and over. I've spent 14 years knowing this young lady in the room, younger than me, but has mentored me. And I believe that we just have to walk the journey with the people we're mentoring throughout their careers so that they can grow and occupy these leadership seats.
Thank you. Fatima.
Almost to pave the way forward, but at the same time maintaining or embracing difference in terms of people. And it brings me back to a very famous saying that I live by. I was not born with a hunger to be free. I was born free. By Nelson Mandela, the father of the nation. And in terms of it, Martin Luther King also said, because in terms of I have a dream that there will be a day in the world where everyone is accepted for who they are.
Love it. I also want to just end off with a quote. And before I do that, I think that I'm hoping that what we managed to bring across is that all we are trying to say is let's just normalize women being in leadership. Like my niece would say, it's not even that deep. It's not at the cost of men having to sacrifice anything, but to benefit from the diversity and the difference that we bring to the party. And in the words of Maya Angelou, my mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. Thank you.
Nice,
Thanks for
love it.
listening to us. Thank you.